Okay. Good evening. So we're here now at our weekly Parsha class. I hope everybody can hear me okay. It'll be a pretty short class, hopefully about 15-20 minutes. And you're welcome to tune in every Thursday, God willing. And it'll also be in person. If you want to come in person, send a message. Okay. So this week's Torah portion, we're starting from Bereshis, from the first Parsha in the Torah, the beginning, Genesis 1:1. So this week's Torah portion, obviously, one of the biggest stories of Bereshis, of Genesis, right? For Bereshis itself, the Parsha covers like 1,500 years, right? It's a long, long period from Adam until Noah. It's 10 generations. So there's a lot to cover. But obviously creation is the key. Creation is the beginning. And after Adam and Eve are created, right away we have the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge. Happens within a few hours, actually. Our sages tell us that Adam and Eve were commanded not to eat from the tree of knowledge, from the Eitz Hadas, as it's called in Hebrew, and that was actually only for 3 hours. Adam was finished. He was created over a period of a few hours on Friday, right? On the day of the sixth day of creation, which is just a few moments, a few hours before Shabbos, before the Sabbath began, when there was no more creation. And God commanded Adam at the 9th hour of the day that he should not eat from the tree of knowledge. And that, our sages tell us, that as soon as Shabbat started, as soon as the Shabbos would start, that prohibition would have been removed, and the whole thing would have been over, right? Would have been entered straight into a messianic age, straight into the Garden of Eden as it was meant to be, without any problems. So it was really only 3 hours, from the 9th hour of the day until the 12th hour, right? The day is 12 hours, so that was it. It was going to be just a few hours, and they messed up. They messed up big, right? What happens? We'll just go over the story quickly. The snake goes to Eve, goes to Chava, and the snake says, "You are, what's going on?" And he says, "What are you doing?" And she said, you're not allowed to eat from this. And she says, "We're not allowed to eat from it, and we're even not allowed to touch it, right? We're not allowed to touch the tree," which she made that up, right? That was not part of the commandment that God said, but she felt that if she shouldn't even touch the tree, and then he pushed her against the tree, so she touched it, and nothing happened. So he gave her from the fruit, and she gave to Adam the fruit, and from there death entered the world. They realized that their evil became mixed into everything good, and since then nothing is purely good and nothing is purely evil. Everything has good and evil mixed into it, right? That's what happened with the tree of knowledge, the sin of the eating from the tree of knowledge. So 3 hours, they couldn't control themselves, and they ate from it. So, if we look to that, to the history of the Jewish people and the history of Mount Sinai specifically, when the Jewish people were given many commandments, right? The tree of knowledge was one commandment. That was all man had at that time, right? Afterwards, they were given 7 commandments. And but the Jewish people were given 630 commandments at Mount Sinai. So it says that when God wanted to give the Torah, it says in Parshas Yisro, by the giving the Torah, Kos Omar Leveis Yaakov v'Sagei Livnei Yisrael. So shall you say to the house of Jacob, and so shall you speak to the children of Israel. So the question is, what is the difference between the house of Jacob and the children of Israel? Right? Jacob had 2 names. One was Jacob, one was Israel. Jacob was his given name at birth because he was holding on to the heel of his brother Esav, his twin brother. So he was given the name heel, Yaakov, which comes from the word heel, Akev. And then there was his name that he received after he bested the angel, right? After he wrestled with an angel, excuse me, and he wins the battle with the angel, and God says that the angel gives him the name Yisrael, right? Which means that you have bested an angel, right? You are a master over the angels. So we see that the name Jacob and the name Israel have two different connotations. The name Jacob has the connotation of Akev, of being on a lower level, and Yisrael is on a higher level, of being a master, right? Compared to a heel versus the master. So our sages tell us, how do we know? So what does it mean? So going back to the verse, when the giving of the Torah, why is it said Beis Yaakov and Bnei Israel? So the Torah tells us that our sages tell us that Beis Yaakov refers to the women. How do we know it's referring to women? Because it says you shall say to them, right? Which means in a soft, pleasant manner. That's how you're supposed to talk to women. You're supposed to talk nicely to them. Yeah, but to the men, you should speak harshly. Speak gives a tone of harshness. So therefore, we first speak to the women and then to the men. That's what comes out, right? You should first speak to the say to the house of Jacob, and then speak to the children of Israel. So we see that first it's to the women. So why were the women commanded by the giving of the Torah? Why were they commanded first? Why not command the men? The truth is that this is a reaction to the sin of the sin of the eating of the tree of knowledge, the Chet Eitz Hadas. That if we go back to the story, Adam was commanded not to eat from the tree, and he told his wife, he told Eve, he told Chava, but she was not commanded directly from God, and therefore she ended up messing up the commandment, right? She said that we shall not touch the tree, even though they were not commanded that, but she never heard it directly from God. So she had that ability to mess up the commandment because she did not hear it directly. Versus later, the Jewish people were commanded by the women. Why? Because actually, if God would have told Eve directly, she would have told Eve and not Adam, then they would have never sinned. Because the feminine power of a Jewish woman actually is a tremendous power that, if tapped into, can really, that is what really keeps the Jewish people going. So when it comes to, you could really say, maybe we talk about it another time, was Adam set up, right? Maybe he was set up a little bit if he wasn't given a proper opportunity, that if his wife would have been told as well, or even just her, maybe it would have worked out differently. So we'll talk about that another day. Maybe Adam was set up. But as far as this goes, right, that Eve, Chava, was not told, and that was the downfall. The downfall of Adam was the fact that Eve was not the one Eve was not commanded directly by God, and she had to rely on his word. And in fact, the power of the Jewish woman, and that's what later, by the giving of the Torah, the women were commanded first, because this power of the Jewish woman was to perpetuate for generations. And we're living proof that Jewish people are still here over 3,333 years later. Right? And we're still here. We're still, it's all because of the power of Jewish women and Jewish mothers who pass it on to their children. And going back to what we said, that actually it's not just because of the feminine power, but also it is the feminine power, but part of that feminine power is the fact that how we speak to them, right? That the women we talk to them in a nice manner, right? We use the word somar, we say you shall say, not we shall speak, in a harsh manner. And the reason, and then the women perpetuate that as well through a pleasant manner. They could perpetuate for generations the Torah. So when it comes to Jewish education and the education of the family, that's really the role of the woman. The woman creates the atmosphere in the home that allows that to happen. That allows the Jewish continuity to continue. There's an interesting saying from the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, that the same way that when a person puts on tefillin every day, which is a mitzvah, right? The Torah tells us put on tefillin. That no matter how holy you are, right? Every single Jew is commanded to put on tefillin, and the same way, every Jew has an obligation to think about the education of his children, right? Every Jew he brings the idea of 30 minutes a day, at least, right? to make sure to educate your children the proper way. And this is really what the role of the women are, right? Is to educate the children in a pleasant manner, and really what that ends up leading to is that we mentioned that the name Yaakov is actually a lower level, right? Yaakov means the heel, and Yisrael means master of angels. So but the truth is that through the women educating their children, that will lead to a mastery, right? Meaning that's the path. The path is through Kosomar Lebeis Yaakov, through speaking to the women first in a pleasant manner, and them educating the children. We could get to a mastery level of this idea of perpetuating Jewish education for generations, and really this is one of the lessons of the sin of the tree of knowledge, was the fact that it really is sometimes, it's looked upon that, oh, look, that the woman tripped up Adam and it's the women's fault, but really it's the other way around. That really it shows on feminine empowerment how the Jewish woman actually had the power to stop it, but she wasn't given that opportunity. And that's why later God did give it to the women specifically to be in charge of Jewish education and perpetuating the commandments. And that also will allow that idea that through the woman, right, perpetuating to education of the children, that allows her to be an Ezer Kenegdo, right? As we talk about how in the Torah says that when God created Eve, it says that he created her as an Ezer Kenegdo, which translates as a helper opposite him. And one of the translations that's often given is that the word Ezer and Kenegdo are opposites. Ezer means to help, Kenegdo means against, right, or opposite. So it sounds like two opposites. So is she is she there to help Adam, or is she against Adam? And the truth is, it could be both, right? That if you treat them properly, if you treat your spouse properly, then they'll be an Ezer, they'll be a help. If you treat them badly, or you misuse that relationship, then it could be against you. It'll be your worst nightmare. So, but through the woman perpetuating Jewish education for her children and her family, that allows that she'll also be a help to the husband and to the whole family and to the whole Jewish people. Okay, any questions or comments, something I said or didn't say on the Facebook feed or not on the Facebook feed? Okay, I'll wait another second. See how long it takes to type a comment. You could also you could post, you could just say something nice. Okay, no comments, not at this time. All right, thank you very much for joining. Oh, I'm seeing lots of likes. Okay, good. All right, and we'll see you. Thank you. And we'll see you next week, God willing, and looking forward to a wonderful Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Be in touch.